Hey everyone, so I was reading an article by John Stossel actually, and I'm just going to expand on the headline because I think it's a very important point that isn't brought up much. The headline is, quote, "Myth of the evil rich. As long as rich people don't collude with government, they make our lives better," end quote. And I think this is something that those who criticize libertarians or free market advocates don't generally take into consideration. It's something we've all heard when debating these topics, that free market advocates are just shills for rich people, and that libertarians believe that if we just make life easy for benevolent rich people, then all of society will prosper. Okay, so there are some grains of truth in that I would happily admit to, but it leaves out one very significant point, which is that not all rich people are created equally. What do I mean by this? I mean that just by being a supporter of free markets does not automatically mean I think all rich people deserve their wealth. Many rich people in the US today have obtained large portions of their fortune by regulatory capture. They may be an executive in a corporation with a large lobbying arm. If they become more wealthy by influencing laws that benefit themselves at the expense of others, then that wealth was not obtained in any free market fashion, and frankly, they do not deserve that wealth. If an executive from a bank that should have collapsed gets a huge bonus after receiving a bailout, when all they really deserved was unemployment, that is undeserved wealth. They did not get that wealth from any service they provided to fellow human beings, and worse yet, the roots of their wealth can now be traced to the wallets of unwilling Americans who had their money taken against their will from the government. This is nothing that a free marketer would support. Or how about a company that receives large subsidies from the government? Any person who makes a large enough salary from a company like that to be considered rich is undeserving of their fortune. Or let's take a slightly hypothetical situation. The former CEO of McDonald's supported a federal $15 minimum wage. This was because he knew that most of their competition would not be able to afford that, and additionally, he could always automate more, thus avoiding paying those higher wages. This was a CEO attempting to use the strong arm of the government to wield policy in his favor. Even as a fervent free market supporter, this would not be a person who I believe is deserving of their riches. In fact, it may be a bit counterintuitive to those who criticize people who support free markets, but here is the truth of the matter. Many libertarians understand that there are 1,001 ways to enrich yourself by playing a political and legislative game in the halls of Congress. There is no end to the creativity of some rich people in the US on how to screw people over with their influence over legislation, and libertarians are completely fine with dismantling, destroying, and expunging any apparatus that allows that to happen. On the flip side, and this may come as a shock, but the pathway to legitimate wealth should be a bit more narrow than that, to say the least. Those rich people who became rich by simply thinking of, creating, or offering an investment, a product, or a service that large numbers of people voluntarily and gladly buy through their own volition, those are the rich people who deserve every last cent they made, and your pursuit to end their riches is not a noble pursuit in any sense. So as I said, not all rich people are created equally, and those who oppose and rebuke all rich people equally need to understand the distinction I just made in order to have a better perspective on this topic. Thanks, and that's all.